Girls, I don't know if you can hear me, but I finally managed to get the screen shared. So I will go through the Photoshop experiment. If nobody's there, this is a recording of what should have happened in the lesson earlier on. So we're going to go through how to combine images together to form a Melinda Gibson style photo montage or collage. So what you'll need is a background, which I showed you earlier on. We're going to have the background of Bournemouth Beach. You will also need silhouettes of people, because all of Melinda Gibson's work has people in it. So we've got Boris Johnson, he's going to be turned into a person in a minute, into a silhouette person. And here's our people that we're going to cut out. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is, they are all on separate canvases at the moment, which is quite confusing. So what we need to do is drag them all on top of each other. So I'm going to go to my move tool. Hopefully you see that. Let's move it across. So I'm going to click on my move tool at the top of the toolbar, and I'm going to move my silhouettes, my two people socially distanced, on top of the beach, so I can get rid of this picture now and it's less confusing. And let's move them, and I'm going to, while they're there, I've got my show transform controls clicked, so I can move them and adjust them to make them roughly the size that I want them. I want them nice and big because they're the main subject of the image, and I want them to kind of fill the foreground. So let's have them there, about that size. So that's that one. The next thing I need to add is the detail that's going to go inside the two silhouettes. So I'm going to use two newspaper articles. I'm going to use the stay at home slogan on the top of the Times. So let's move that on top as well. So I'm left clicking, dragging and dropping. And I'm going to do the same with the Daily Mail as well. That's going to go into the second figure. So let's drag that and drop that on there. Right. So we've now got our four images piled up on top of each other. The next thing to do is to go to the quick selection tool, and we're going to select the silhouette of our figures. So I'm going to minimize canvases that I don't need. Let's get those out of the way. I'm going to do a bit of resizing of those two newspaper articles. That's there, and find my layers. Got my history open there, but I need my window, layers, click on that again. Here they are. Right, so I can see everything piled up on top of each other now. So let's move the Daily Mail article, and let's make the Boris Johnson picture a bit smaller. We don't need to see him too big. It's a scary sight. There we go. He's a bit smaller there now. Okay, so I've got everything piled up. I'm going to now get rid of everything that I don't need, because again, if you've got too many images in front of you, it can get confusing. So I'm going to close the eye on the background. I'm going to close the eye on the two newspaper articles, and I'm going to focus on my figures. So if I highlight the figure layer in blue, I can then go to the quick selection tool. You'll see this on the worksheet as well, so I'm literally just following this worksheet. So quick selection tool, and I'm going to go round the man figure. If I press shift, it's selecting bits of the background. If I press shift, it should go to a minus selection. No, it's not doing it on here. We can do it on the top though. So at the moment we've got a little plus symbol, if you see where my mouse is, so everything I click on is being added to the selection. If I click on minus, it will take things away. So I can go round and just get rid of the bits that I don't need. I don't need the hedge in the background there, so we'll get rid of that. I don't need the drain pipe, definitely not. And the brick wall. So this is probably the most fiddly part of the experiment, getting the figures selected properly. You can make the size of the selection circle a bit smaller as well, perhaps, if you need to. So you can make it bigger if I'm selecting larger areas. And for this one, it needs to be a bit smaller, really, because it's selecting too much. There we go. Still selecting a bit too much. It's fine. I can go around afterwards with the minus tool and select what I need. So a little bit fiddly, but probably the most difficult part of this experiment. And the most important part, really, if your figures look a little bit sort of dodgy or not cut out properly, it won't look like a very sophisticated experiment. So spend time just making sure they're selected properly. Another thing you can do as well is go to the magnifying tool and just zoom in a little bit closer so you can see what you're doing properly. So if I go in here, let's go back on that one again, go on the minus and just go in around the armpit. Make sure that's selected properly. And then we'll go to the plus and select the arm and the hand. Oop. Again. Remember, you don't just have to use the quick selection tool. You could use the polygonal lasso tool as well. I was showing you that last week. So you can use a combination of different selection tools. If you hold down shift, you can add them together. But I will persevere with this quick selection tool. Okay. To the bottom of the trainer. So that looks like he's just about selected there. Oh, we'll do something around the face. That doesn't look too good. There we are. And we'll add to the hair as well. There we go. Right, so I can zoom out now. I've got my first figure selected. But both the figures are going to be on different backgrounds, so we will select them separately. Okay, let's zoom out. So figure 1 is selected. Now I want this figure to be on the newspaper article. So this one here I think we'll go for. Oh no, actually probably Daily Mail. So what I'm going to do is go to select. I'm going to save the selection, so it should save that cutout figure. Let's call him Bob. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to move the background that I want into position. There, that roughly there. So now I'm going to go back to select, and this time I'm going to load the selection. So load selection, I need to find Bob, there he is. I'm going to click OK, and we're going to click Control J. By clicking Control J, you're cutting your selection out of the background that you've put in place, and you'll see here it's Control J has cut the figure out and it's made it into a new layer. So here's Bob up here, nicely cut out from that background, the beach background. Okay, so the next thing that I need to do is go round my other figure exactly the same way. This time I'm going to move the other newspaper article in place, and I think it's not going to be very effective if you can't see the letters or you can't see the title Stay at Home. So obviously you can't go left to right, so I'm going to switch it so it's vertical. I'm going to move it from horizontal to vertical. So what I did to do that is to go to the Move tool, go to Show Transform Controls, make sure that's clicked on, and then I've just hovered my mouse above one of those squares and I've rotated it round. And to check that it's in the right place, that it's over her, we want it going straight through her middle. We're going to go to the opacity, which is beside the layers or in the layer options. I'm going to change that to, there we go, 27, and I can now line that up quite nicely, so it's going to be in the right place. It needs slightly longer to get her feet in. Okay, and then we're going to go through exactly the same thing again. Change the opacity up there. Double click to confirm that. We'll just turn that layer off and make sure we're back onto our two figures photograph. So we're going to go through the same thing again. We're going to select, using the quick selection tool, this figure. So hopefully it'll be slightly quicker. It'll be a quicker process than it was for the other one. But it's probably good for you just to watch again so you can see how to do it. Zoom in a bit closer. And let's go to the minus selection. Oh, here we go, back to the quick selection tool. Minus, because we don't want this hedge again. And we don't want the hedge up here. When you do this, you can take your time a little bit more. And again, if this quick selection tool isn't working, just go for the polygonal lasso tool. But it's good to have a go at trying the different selection tools, because some work really well for one image and another one might be much better for another one. Let's get her feet in, they're important. She needs to be able to stand up. Oh. Okay, there she is. So the next thing she's got something growing out the top of her head. Let's get rid of that. So if we zoom in close, we can do one last check. It looks pretty good to me. She's got a lump on her hand, so we'll get rid of that as well. And a little funny lump here of the building. So obviously you can spend a little bit longer doing this for your own experiments. Back those feet. Right, I'm getting too carried away now. Let's zoom out and carry on with the experiment. So I need to go to select again. Save selection. We'll call her, so we've got Bob. What goes with Bob? We'll call her Mary. There we go. Click OK. We're going to get our newspaper article in place, which we prepared a minute ago. Select that newspaper article. That's important. You've selected the layer you want her to be cut out of. Then we're going to go to select, load selection. It's not Bob this time, it's Mary. So we're going to click on Mary, click OK. And then if you click Control J, it will cut the newspaper article into the shape of her. And form another layer. And there's Mary on layer 5. So when you have lots of layers, it's sometimes a very good idea to name them. So it's less confusing and you can move things around a lot quicker if you know at a glance what the layer contains. So there's Mary. We can turn off layer 2 now. Let's get rid of that. Brilliant. We have Bob and Mary. We no longer need this photograph layer 1 because it's done everything we need to do. We just wanted the two figures cut out from it. So we can click on that and get rid of it. Makes things less confusing. We can engage our background. So now we have a slight problem because we can't really see our figures that clearly. You can see Mary a little bit clearer than Bob, but I think what you could do is you could completely desaturate Bob. So if we go to image adjustments, desaturate or turn him into black and white, he might stand out a little bit more. So we'll click OK for that. And remember, you can make monochrome photographs stand out by changing the levels or the curves to make the dark tones darker and the light tones lighter. So standing out a little bit more now. Another thing you can do to make it stand out is to add a drop shadow. So what I'm going to do is join Bob and Mary together. Let's move Mary up so she's beside Bob. And if I hold Shift, so it's the arrow key above the curl key on your keyboard to the left, and click on Bob as well as Mary, both of them should change together. And I'm going to add a drop shadow to them. So if I right click, it's not letting me do that actually. Let's see if we can change them one at a time. Yeah, okay, we'll have to do it one at a time. It doesn't like doing drop shadows for both. So we change Mary by going to blending options, drop shadow, and then you can make the shadow lighter or darker using the opacity, or you can spread the shadow so it's coming out at more of an angle. You can make the size bigger. You have a play around with the drop shadow until you think it's effective in making your silhouette stand out from the background. That's probably quite nice there. Too dark. Try and keep it subtle. And that just emphasizes quite nicely the text stay at home as well. It makes it out. Another thing you can do on here is you can add an inner shadow as well. So that might work for the silhouette that you use. So instead of the shadow going out, it goes inwards. Gives it more of a 3D effect. That like that. And I think I'll leave, no, I will add a drop shadow to Bob. Let's rename him. Oh, definitely not a colour overlay. Drop shadow. Oh, you can see at the top 2 areas. If you look at above his head, you can see 2 areas I haven't cut out properly. So it's probably quite good to try drop shadows because it highlights things like that. Click OK on there, and then I'm just going to go to my polygonal lasso tool and cut out the 2 stripes above him there. Let's get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. So there we have it, our Melinda Gibson style photo montage based on a sort of topical issue, sending out a message. As I was going through this experiment, what I should have been doing is every now and again, I should have been snipping. So every time I cut out a figure or made a significant change, I should have been snipping or print screening onto my PowerPoint, showing all of my developmental steps. You'll get lots of marks for AO2 for showing every single step of development. And I won't just leave this experiment here. I would open up those photographs again and perhaps try having the newspaper articles as the background and the figures on the beach or the beach background cut out of the silhouettes to completely change the order of the photographs and how I use them. So I'd have a whole series of experiments on these three images that I've used. So I'm going to leave it there. Please rewind and go back through and sort of pick up on any bits that you need extra help with. That's the advantage of having it recorded. And if you could try and get 3 different experiments done, so 3 ideas. One might be to do with Bournemouth beaches. You could have a go at this idea if you want to start with. Another one might be to do with, I don't know, trophy hunting perhaps. That was on the news last night. It was awful. Sort of 10,000 lions, I think, have been killed within the last few years, just through people going out and shooting them for a sport. Or it might be some other topical issue that you feel strongly about. So 3 different ideas, each with a series of experiments. the more you practice, the more fluent you're going to get with sort of using all the different tools on Photoshop. And I'm going to leave it over to you now. Please email me if you have any questions or you're stuck with anything.